Hi, everyone. My name is Sharon Malik, and I'm just delighted to welcome you to our MHC webinar. A lot of business teams today still rely on static paper and PDF forms to collect customer information and kickstart their workflows. But this experience is slow, error-prone, and manual, and it offers a poor customer experience. So our topic today is turning static forms into workflows fast. Before we get started, a few housekeeping notes. Today's webinar is being recorded and you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the recording. All participants will be muted, but please put your questions into the chat. We've set aside 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. All right, so let's get started. I am pleased to have Amy Machado, Senior Research Manager at IBC, joining us today to present some fresh research about forms innovation, what customers want, and the business value of digitization. MHC's Shawn Phillips will also join at the end to give MHC insight into the topic. So Amy, welcome, and
Thank you.
I will pass the mic over to you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sharon, if you want to go to my first slide. So let's look at the agenda about what we're going to talk about today. I will start off with talking about the challenges that come with static and PDF forms, why forms are business critical, not just from a data collection perspective, but also from a workflow perspective. Talk a little bit about customer preferences when it comes to their communications with the businesses they are working with, and how they want to engage with you. And then kind of move into then, if we're getting away from the challenges, we're experiencing those benefits of intelligent forms and intelligent workflows, the business value that we get out of those AI-powered forms. And then I will hand it over to Shawn to talk a little bit more about what MHC is doing, and then we'll have a Q&A. So next slide. Awesome. So Sharon kind of started off by giving a little taste of some of the challenges that come with static and PDF forms and why they can be a hindrance to your workflow. So let's just dig a little deeper here. So thinking about the challenges, the good thing is that by the end of this, you'll understand how intelligent forms and workflows will address those challenges. So your company is probably using static forms or PDFs. I'm sure you've experienced them in your own life as a customer. And so some of the challenges that people, report from both the customer experience and the business side is they're static. It's a one size fits all generic experience. It could be a generic experience. It might be the wrong experience. It's not tailored. It's not the right experience for maybe what someone is looking for. And then when you have that static form, it requires manual processes. It requires data entry, inefficient processes for the customer. The form might not help me complete it. It might not be filling in information for me. I might literally be having to print it and then fill it out and scan it in for later. It's not picking up where I last was. It's not using intelligence in that way. It's not really tied into the workflow. And when it's not tied into the workflow and it's an inefficient process, that creates workflow bottlenecks and friction. It's not triggering the next steps of what needs to happen. It might be requiring me to switch context to go to a different application. I don't know if I gave you everything that you need. Is the workflow complete? So every bottleneck and hiccup can lead to customer abandonment, which is the last thing that you want. Because nothing is more business critical than servicing your customer in the way that they want to be serviced. But then think about manual and inefficient processes for the employee. They have to check the data. They sometimes have to manually enter the data. They have to correct data errors. It might not be masking PII. It might be asking for PII when you don't really need it. And then you have the paper and scanning process. I recently refinanced my home in 2020, and it was all PDF forms that I filled out, some manually, some online, but then most of that conversation was email. And there was a lot of bottlenecks within that process, and it just didn't, feel very smooth and synchronous. It was very asynchronous. And then when you have, this going back and forth, for example, via email, what does that mean for compliance and security? Can I trust you with the data that you are collecting? How do I know that it's being secured? Then think about, the channel experience that your customers want to engage with you. A lot of us are using our mobile phones. I'm talking to you today from my laptop, from my PC, but a lot of changes are happening within how we engage with the companies that we deal with. So something might start off in text, and then I want to continue within the mobile experience. And that experience might not be the same of what I have within the web. Last week, I left a sweater on a plane on American Airlines, and I tried to fill out the form on my mobile phone, and it just wasn't optimized for the mobile experience. And I eventually gave up, and then 24 hours later, had to come back to my PC, and it just didn't feel modern, and it kind of just left a bad taste in my mouth for how I was dealing with that airline. It wasn't a modern experience. And when you don't have that modern experience, that can really, impact your brand. So we want to go to the next slide. Great. So I want to get back also to that point that I just made. Forms are business critical. For just about every business case, there is a form or many forms, many things that you need to collect from your customers. But thinking kind of beyond the idea of the form itself, forms really are workflow. And IDC has developed something called the Unified Content Model, and it's really kind of the content supply chain. So thinking about content is data. So you are collecting content and data from your customers. And when forms are that workflow, you're collecting that data that you need to run your business and your business processes. And so we've shown some examples here of the different types of forms that you might be experiencing in your business within the financial services, loan applications, KYC, anti-fraud, supplier onboarding for manufacturing, HR. A lot of people, every company probably has an HR department, so that kind of goes across industries. But there's many different types of forms that are really critical to that workflow of what you're doing. And then it's also iterative. So the data can determine the form, and then how you collect that data is impacted based off of the data that you already have. And so thinking about your data, that workflow, that is really helping to drive your communication and your communication with the customer, because they really think of that forms as a way as they're communicating with you and vice versa. So next slide. So at IDC, we do a lot of research, and Sharon said that this is fresh research, and it really is. This is a survey that we put out this past summer specific to customer communication and intelligent forms. And just thinking about the volume of technology generated customer communication, so your CCM, your automated document generation, your intelligent forms, we asked companies, what's that volume looking like? And it is growing. 18% average growth rate. When you add together moderately and significantly, that's 30%, 2% of the respondents. And so the amount of ways that you're juggling and handling customer communication, it's not decreasing, it's increasing. And so why does this matter for this conversation? It matters because forms are a type of customer communication. So when we ask this question, we are including forms. So the amount of forms, either outbound or inbound, are definitely increasing for your business. Next slide. So forms are business critical communication. And before we move on to the benefits, let's just stay on the challenges for just another minute. So because they're business critical, you want to get it right. So getting it right also means understanding what your customers are complaining about. So, and we all love to complain, especially when there's a problem. So we asked folks IT tech buyers, line of business like yourself, what are the most common complaints that you get from customers regarding the communication from your customers? And so the ones that I especially think point to how intelligent forms can help, I've highlighted in green. But the number one problem is repeated requests for the same information, generic, non-targeted communication. That goes back to that first slide I was talking about challenges. People want to be able to have an on-demand self-service experience. It can be difficult to take that next step or to even understand what action I need to do to complete my request. And so there's ways that intelligent forms can really address these pain points. The mobile app is not useful. There's a language barrier. There's a translation problem. But even looking at the ones that I don't have in green, the ones that are in blue, intelligent forms can probably address some of those complaints. If the chat bot wasn't helpful, did I get what I want from the chat bot, or did I need to go to the chat bot in the first place? Does that mean that the self-service experience that I potentially could have gotten from the form wasn't what I needed? I might have filled out a form, but the data wasn't updated in real time, or it has errors. So you might be having to ask me for something again. So that gets back to the repeated requests for the same information. So looking at the pain points, think about the ways that your business is running and how intelligent forms with workflow can really address some of these pain points that people are complaining about. Okay, next slide. Great. So your customers want to communicate with you. They want to do business with you. How do they want to do it? And so we asked what are companies seeing from their customers in terms of their preferences? What channels are they most frequently using today to communicate with them? And many of these are actually, I think, a part of the forms workflow, a place where you can access forms, kind of a forms gateway. So people want to engage on the website. They definitely do a lot of engagement via email. It's interesting to see that there's still a lot of in-store, in-person communication, text messages, but then also you see online web forms is a high number here. It's not up at the top, but that's because this is communication overall, inbound and outbound. And I was recently discussing this with a colleague who works in digital experience, and she has some survey data that shows that inbound communication, web forms is number two. It's directly behind email. So that is how customers really want to be able to communicate with you. And thinking about, the forms being business critical, customers use them. They like them. They like that self-service experience. So think about your forms experience, and you want to make it a great experience. Okay, next slide. So why does it need to be a great experience? Because customer experience determines customer satisfaction. So we asked folks, what are you thinking about when you're with your communication strategy? How are you going to change it and evolve it or expand it within the next 18 months? And I believe that every company should have a communication strategy and goals that align with that. So that will definitely impact your approach, but then also will impact the investments you're making in technology to see those goals come to fruition. So great forms means a great experience. It's faster onboarding. It can be faster sales. So that improves your CSAT scores, your customer satisfaction. Then thinking about reducing cost, using intelligent forms can help you, you don't need to require different additional resources. It can take less of that impact off of IT. And as you're reducing costs, think about ways that you are also kind of increasing revenue. If you are having that faster onboarding time, you are able to offer new products for your customers. Customer self-service. I don't like calling anybody. I would much rather have a self-service experience. I know what I want, so help me find it and then help me complete that workflow in the most seamless way possible. Intelligent forms can really do that. Now, digital interactions, the way that we worded it, it's kind of like getting less or using less paper, kind of shifting to more of a digital experience so you don't have to have paper or print. And I know a lot of companies on this call probably have ESG goals, but digital interactions also mean that you can be talking to your customers in real time. So putting the sustainability part aside, paper is not real time, but digital interactions and experiences are. And then using the data intelligence, what you know about your customer, to apply their preferences to those interactions, to those transactions, so your forms can adapt in real time, or you can fill in information to have a personalized experience so they can get the form that they need at the right time that they need it. And you can give them tools to kind of help them fill it in along the way. Again, that kind of reduces that fear of abandonment. Okay, next slide. So, designing customer communications that connect. You want to use data to connect with your customer. You want to use data for a better intelligent forms experience and workflow. And so when we ask folks, what are you doing with your customer data to influence how you are communicating with them? The number one reason is that seamless handoff between that digital and human interaction. So like a true digital workflow between the person and your systems. And then applying AI, machine learning, generative AI, those types of applications to data to automate and recommend the next workflow steps. Again, kind of that seamless experience, getting rid of those bottlenecks. And then a big problem, and this is for any type of IT, it's those legacy systems, modernizing dependent legacy systems to use your data more efficiency. And legacy systems have legacy processes that are tied to them. And so when you're thinking about your intelligent forms and those workflows, think about the ways that you can optimize that process. Even if you have to continue to use like certain legacy systems, the solutions that like MHC is going to talk to you a little about today, you don't have to do a major migration or a rip and replace type of thing. Intelligent forms can be kind of an integrated point solution that will at least help you modernize that step of the workflow. Companies also want to have communication that is consistent kind of across the business, especially if you're a global company. What is your brand identity or communication that you want to have from location to location, from department to department. Consistent communication means that you don't have to juggle a massive template or PDF library. That idea of kind of change once and change everywhere. So everything is kind of consistent for that workflow, so your customer kind of knows what they should be expecting. And then that personalized and differentiated experience. Don't forget a few slides ago, the biggest complaint was, generic communication. So what can you do to kind of create that experience that feels personal but specific to what I'm looking for? And then thinking about using data and automation to respect your customers' preferences, but also to remain compliant, especially if you're like in the financial services industry or you're within healthcare. Compliance, is top of mind for everybody. So what can you do to improve that process from a forms perspective, from getting the right data, reducing data errors, also an audit, creating that audit trail so you kind of know what's happening within the business and it's in a safe and compliant way. Okay, next slide. So intelligent forms really exist because of AI. And there's business value that comes from AI-powered solutions. And we asked in this most recent survey, what are the drivers that are influencing you to adopt those AI-enabled solutions for customer communication specifically? And it really kind of relates back to those communication strategy goals that we were talking about a few slides ago. AI enables intelligent form solutions, and then intelligent forms helps you realize those strategy goals. So for all of your AI investments, IDC has created this framework called the AI Business Value Benefit. So you're thinking about the impact that these investments can have from multiple angles, because a lot of people think about a lot of their AI investments specific to productivity, to efficiency, and that's great. You should be doing that. It's also one of the easiest ways to track, efficiencies, hours saved, employee satisfaction, things like that. But kind of going beyond just that productivity, look at all the different ways that AI investments can improve the business overall, from revenue generation, customer experience, employee experience. How is it helping you innovate? What new products could you be offering, but your technology is holding you back? new types of loans could you be offering people, but you just don't have the technology that can scale and kind of adapt to those new innovations that you want to have. The sustainability, we talked about that a few seconds ago. And then time to market. So getting kind of to that innovation, you're offering new products, but is the onboarding kind of holding you back? How are you able to get that onboarding, for example, faster? Ensuring that security and trust. There's a lot of fears, some of them that are completely valid around, data and data protection. I want to be able to use data securely, AI securely within my organization, but that also needs to be kind of shown to your customers as well, that is very much top of mind to you. And then thinking about business resilience, you're making these investments in solutions. You want to work with someone who is future proof, because what could be coming down the pipeline in a few months could be very different. And so you as a company need to be able to adapt to kind of the changing evolution of what's happening. I mean, a year ago, nobody was really talking about agents, but now like the agentic workflow is all that we talk about. So thinking about those AI investments that you want to have, that customer experience, operational costs, innovation, they all kind of work together. So think about that, especially as how it relates to your intelligent forms. Next slide. So when we talk to companies and like looking at your peers, the companies who are investing in intelligent forms today, we ask them, what are the drivers that are pushing you to make those investments? And the top reason is easier integrations. And I think that integrations is the biggest inhibitor, or lack of seamless integrations has been the biggest inhibitor to pretty much any IT project that I hear that's out there. Easier integrations, connecting your forms, the data that you're collecting to other business systems, because again, it is a part of a workflow. It's not just remaining in that form. It is connecting to your CRM, to your ERP, whatever kind of automation, RPA that you're doing. And so you want those integrations to be seamless and easy, but also bi-directional. Thinking about, those AI-driven actions, you want to be able to analyze the data as it's coming in so you can have those automatic triggers for those personalized and relevant communications, because the customer journey that people are on is dynamic. It's hard to establish, strict bespoke workflows understanding every possibility that could happen. So when you have those AI driven actions, it can adapt and evolve dynamically in real time. And that means, more intelligent data that you're collecting, and you can do that with more intelligent and guided data capture. So you're improving that communication process. You are reducing abandonment. You are increasing completion rates, which really is, the goal. You want the accurate data coming in, and you want the data that you have to be complete and what you need. And then thinking about on the employee side, kind of the lift for you guys, that easier to build form, the rapid creation of different form types, simplifying that process. Also empowering business users to design and deploy the forms that they need to create those workflows that align with their business needs. Nobody understands the workflow better than the business user. And so even if they are depending on IT, helping them to deploy and develop those solutions without kind of putting a burden onto IT with those easier to build forms, that's definitely like a big benefit, to shows that like these drivers to invest can lead to these benefits. They come from deploying intelligent forms. So if you want to go to my last slide. So kind of wrapping up of everything that we've just talked about, the benefits of deploying intelligent forms and those intelligent workflows in your business. It's allowing you to modernize. You are taking a static experience out of the process. It is a digital first interaction with your customers. You're taking paper out of the process. You're taking kind of a flat, static experience out of the process. It allows you to have a modern mobile experience that allows you to be more agile. A modern experience, I think, especially mobile or self-service. I'm different than my 16-year-old daughter. She's going to be your customer soon. She wants that mobile experience that is very, very intuitive. I think if I printed up a form and said, fill this out, she would just be like, oh, I don't want to do that. So then thinking about like the data quality, the data is the lifeblood of your business. And so using those intelligent forms to pre-populate fields, to dynamically adjust based off of the inputs that you're getting from your customers, ensuring that they are correct and complete in real time, that you have everything that you need. And then as you're taking in that data, you're validating that information, you're meeting those standards, you're improving your security and compliance posture. You have to protect the data. Data security is top of mind for everybody, and IDC survey data shows that the financial cost of non-compliance far outseeds any kind of ransomware attack that you might get from bad actors. So sometimes just the poor data handling can have a big cost to your business from a fines and lack of compliance process problem, but also you don't again have that lifeblood that you need, that better data quality. And then productivity, that seamless integration, internally and externally, eliminating those bottlenecks for your customers and also for your employees. And then that employee experience, using natural language and AI assistants to design and deploy forms. No, like I said, nobody knows those workflows better than your business users. So you want to empower them to create the forms that they need without having to rely on IT. And then what this all means is an improved customer experience. You're keeping your customers engaged. You're delivering those faster interactions where they want it in their preferred channel, including the mobile experience as well. And so when you kind of put these all together, this is like how intelligent forms are kind of impacting that intelligent workflow, which if you look back at that UCM, it's that starting point of the content deployment within your business. You're collecting that data. It is helping you have that business critical information that you need with so many benefits that we talked about today. So I will hand it over to Shawn.
Excellent. Thank you. Next slide, please. So here's sort of fundamental where we start with addressing the needs Amy talked about is 66% of IT teams report a significant backlog. It's really hard to deliver in customer communications, especially when you're talking about collecting customer information through forms. We just talked to a bank, 1,700 different PDF forms, and they're wanting to digitize. The IT people are like, I'm not so sure I want to take that on. Well, what we're doing is we're helping with that process. If we go to the next slide here, there are four main things. There are a million things I could talk about. There are four main things I want to look at. One, AI-powered form creation. How do we make it easier for people to do this so that we get those 1,700 forms in the hands of customers who can fill them out easily? Part of that experience is that real-time preview and then integration with the backflow, the back-end workflow. So Amy kept talking about forms powers workflow. That's what we're talking about here, that seamless integration with your systems. And part of forms always is being able to say, yes, this is me and I agree to this information I'm submitting. And that's what the signatures is all about. So let's go to the next slide. First is rapid creation. And I remember about 4 years ago, somebody was like, hey, can we put in our marketing that we do this in minutes and not days or years? And I'm like, minutes is a little much. But right now, with the AI creation, you're able to, within minutes, say, this is what I need in my form, and it can create it for you. Then, of course, you have to say, well, these are some of the formatting pieces, et cetera, et cetera. But you get 80% there in minutes. Or in the case of this bank who has all these PDFs, upload the PDF, say, can you take that PDF and turn it into a form? Now, it's not going to look exactly like the PDF in the form itself because you're collecting data in an easier way rather than in that PDF. And so when you turn a PDF into a form, it looks like a web form that works on a computer or on a mobile that you can more easily collect that data. But if you go to the next slide, one of the things that is interesting is a lot of times customers, when they're filling out the web form, they kind of are like, how's this going to look like in the real form when it gets published? And so one of the things that we do is, as somebody is filling out the form, if they want to, they can turn on the little preview button and they can see how the PDF form is being filled out as they're typing it in. It's sort of a comfort blanket, if you will, where people are like, is this really going into the right place? And so what we do is, when you're filling out the web form, if you want to see how it's going to look in the real life form that gets submitted, you're able to do that. And so the form adapts to what people want to see or need to see with that real-time preview. Now let's go to the next slide. Now, back to that workflow thing that Amy kept talking about. Forms collect data, and you can't see it. That little part of the workflow that you see here, this blue workflow, starts with get data, and that's the form piece. Let's get data, and now once we have that data, let's flow it to the places in the organization or to the people that need to see it. In this case, we show that we can collect the data and then send it out to you for signature. Now, we support DocuSign and AssureSign, but we also support BoxSign, which is really interesting because there are millions of companies that use Box to store their documents in there. And what we can do is send it to you, you sign it, and it's stored in that Box content vault securely so that you can have access to those signatures. So it integrates with whatever workflows that you have. Now, I want to tell you something that I just saw this week. It's something called Digital Colleague, and it's something that one of our partners is doing. One of our partners is called Dialogue Group. They're out of the Netherlands. And what they're doing is they're taking forms and chat and migrating them together so that you can have this chat experience that also includes forms to collect data that walks people through a business process, and it integrates with our system. And so what you're able to do is say, let's get data in the place where customers want to give it. So that mobile experience or the tablet experience or the WhatsApp experience, whatever it is, they allow us to collect that and then post it into this workflow that integrates with your backend. So now your IT folks, they don't have to worry so much about, how am I integrating with everything? How's it going to work? Do I have to do all this coding? No, you drag, you drop, you put in some parameters, and you're able to test your workflow. Now, the actual form may be able to be created in minutes. The whole workflow, that takes a little bit of testing. But by being able to drag and drop and put these key integrations in on the screen and put in a few parameters, you're able to get things up and running in a couple weeks, tested, ready to go, to collect data from customers and make your workflows better. And so between the between the creation of forms with AI and the real-time preview and these seamless integrations with all these different, it makes it so that all those things that Amy was talking about that make forms so important to your business, we're able to deliver that with the MHC solution. Let's go to the next slide. All right, questions?
Yeah, we do want to hear from you. And if you want to add your questions to the chat, we'll get to as many as we can in the time remaining, and specify whether your question is for Amy, Shawn, or both. So let's just take a look here. And All right.
As Sharon looks for a question, Shawn, I'm surprised you didn't out me like you did when we were talking about this earlier, when you showed the workflow and you're like, even Amy can do it.
Well, I didn't want to out you like that. But yes, we were having this conversation a couple months ago, and I was showing Amy sort of the workflow, and she's like, that I could do that. I'm like, yes, because
Mm,
that's the whole purpose of the workflow engine is it just makes sense. I'm going to get data and then I'm going to put it together and then I'm going to send it over here and grab a signature. Amy was like, I could do that. I'm like, that's exactly the point. So that I
yeah.
appreciate you bringing it up. I didn't want to out you, but that's the whole idea to
Yeah.
make it so that people can just, oh, I know what I'm doing rather than having all this code that people have to work through.
But
Yeah.
even for the IT folks, like
Right.
I mean, developers still appreciate a drag and drop system as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, I was talking to some folks earlier this week where I was like, so I know you probably don't care because you can just write this yourself, but here's an easy way to get this. They're like, no, no, no. I appreciate the shortcut because if the
Hmm.
shortcut works, I'm busy. Give me the shortcut. I'll use the technology and then I will get
Yeah.
on to my next task.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we do have a couple questions here. Um, it doesn't say who this first one is for, but the question is, where do intelligent forms fit in a broader digital transformation strategy? And what does it mean to have data that's AI ready? Because we're hearing a lot about AI ready, so I'm sure
I
that.
was just writing that today in some like in another report. I mean, yeah, so there's that to me is kind of going to be the conversation I feel like for the next little while, especially as we talk more forward thinking around agentic workflows. Your data has to be AI ready. And so AI ready data is quality, accurate data that is in the context of the business. And kind of to what Shawn was showing, like talking about the first part is get data. And so when you want to get that data in the forms experience, it is many times that entry point for your AI workflow. And so you can't have an AI digital, any kind of digital transformation, whether it's kind of like the old school big data digital transformation, AI, agentic, whatever, unless the data that you have is accurate and it is what you need to kind of drive the business. And so that's where forms can't be an afterthought for people. I think too often it's just kind of like, yeah, okay. But no, it is going back to what I was saying earlier, it's business critical. You know, that data, the collection, your customer onboarding, understanding who your customer is, selling them more products, or if like an internal HR, being able to stay compliant and communicating with everybody. You know, it's key.
Yeah. I'm talking this week about um, it was a loan workflow and you had to provide some information. So I upload my license and the AI goes, oh, I can using computer vision, I can see this is the state, this is the license number. And so instead of me typing in license number and state, because our license, I don't know about other places, but in Minnesota, our license number is like long. And I'm like, and so just by uploading it, they got the quality image they need for their records, and they got the right license number and state information. And it made it easier for me as the customer as I was filling out this form. Instead of
Hmm.
typing it all in, I had to just upload and then it understood what was in there. So the data was better, it was faster, and they got the information that they
Hmm.
need. So we were working with this customer and they're like, okay, this makes life easier for our customers and we get less not NIGOs, not in good order,
Right.
as the information's coming in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This other question here is, can you share an example of how intelligent forms might streamline onboarding or claims processes in particular?
I think you just gave a really good example.
Yeah, so the forms, it's the way it's sort of this portal in. And when I think,
Mhm.
so it's really important right now when you think of web forms, it's not, I'm, as you said, it's not I'm filling it out on my computer. It's I'm filling out wherever I happen to be in the way I need to collect that data. And so what we're doing now is saying, I come in and I start with what am I trying to do? Because a web form might be a web form for starting a loan. It might be a web form for um, doing a claim or saying, hey, wait a second, I think my credit card is it was stolen or something like that. So you come into the business process and the forms adapt based on the business need and the flow that's happening right now in the customer
Mm.
experience.
Mm.
And I know I've seen a lot of commercials on TV where, an accident has happened and someone pulls out their smartphone to take a photo, to upload it to the insurance company, and it's all on their mobile app.
Yeah, that's a huge part of like intelligent document processing, that type of workflow. Like forms is a huge part of, intelligent capture, intelligent document processing, that computer vision, the document AI, those capabilities. Because also, like most interactions aren't just one single, static form. It's again, it's a part of that workflow. There are steps to the process, and then there are triggers, and then there are, making sure that you have all the information correct. Then there could be, um, verification, like fraud detection. I am who I say I am. And then it can come back to like another process of like, okay, now you qualified for this loan, and then you kind of start a new process. But it really is thinking about it in terms of like that business critical workflow. And I think also if the folks who are listening today, like think of it as kind of an AI digital transformation project. So when we talk to IT buyers all the time. Every month we have something called the Future Enterprise Resiliency Study, and people think that a recession could be coming. But when we ask them, okay, if that is happening, what is most immune in terms of your tech investments? AI and automation projects are the most immune from budget reductions in light of like economic headwinds and pressures. So don't just think about forms as just customer communication or just like a back office experience. It really kind of elevate it. Think of it as like an AI and automation, intelligent digital transformation initiative. And there's so many ways, especially if you go back to that business benefit, where you can track what the ROI is. You can track those metrics to even kind of say, this is why it's working. This is the time to value that we got. Greater, sometimes it is just that first one, revenue generation. We invested
Mhm.
in this, and look how many more customers we onboarded. Look how many more loans we sold.
And like you said, the ROI is just so easy to measure because I was doing this thing with this customer, their sort of wealth management, and all of their forms, when we did it, when they were doing it manually and they're going through the process, they're like, okay, cost of mail, cost of printing, cost of opening the mail, cost of um, imaging, then going through and going, oh, these were the ones that were not in good order because people filled them out wrong or it was fuzzy.
Yeah.
All of that was, oh, this process takes us $12 per request. And then we made it online and we're like, all of those things where it cost money, all of a sudden it didn't cost money anymore. And so every form that we digitized, you could say every single time somebody gives it through the form, that saves us $11 compared to them doing it paper.
Hmm.
The ROI is there every single time when you go and you go from those manual forms to the digital forms.
Okay. Well, I think we're almost at time, and so I'm gonna just leave it there. Any further questions, we'll just get back to you in person. But I just want to, before we leave, I just want to let people know we have a webinar next month. It's all about charting the course, IT leaders' roadmap to modernizing regulated communications. So, this discussion today is part of this broader discussion. So I want to invite all of our attendees to go to our website and sign up for that. And our guest speaker is going to be Casper Roos from Aspire. And before we go, I want to just sincerely thank Amy and Shawn both for all you've shared today and all the insights. I know that you're both available on LinkedIn. Should somebody want to reach out, they can find you there and ask any
Yep.
questions. But I particularly encourage people to reach out to MHC through our website. We would love to talk with you. If you have any questions or want to have a follow-on discussion with Shawn, we would definitely make that possible. So as you're leaving, thank you both. And thank you everyone for attending today.
you.
And please watch for that link to the video, the recording, and share it. And as you exit, please complete the survey. And thank you all. Have a great afternoon and rest of your day.
Right, bye now.